Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News today at 6 starts now.
Remembering an icon and a pillar for women's rights, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died at the age of 87. This morning, we take a look at her life and the legacy she leaves behind.
And taking a look outside, Metro Detroiters are waking up to a very chilly start to our morning, the first frost of the season. Brandon is in for us this morning. We'll have a look at our forecast.
Good morning. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Priya Mann.
And I'm Grant Herms. Thanks for joining us here this morning on Local 4 News. Today, we will get to our coverage of remembering the life and legacy of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg here in just a moment. But first, we do want to start with the weather. And
Brandon Rue is in for Andrew this morning, and he joins us live from his front porch studio in Grosse Pointe Woods. Brandon, you kind of had to bundle up this morning.
Yes, you do, or really quick stops outside and then back inside for a little warmth. Can you believe we're at or below freezing right now in some of our suburbs? But listen, good Saturday morning. It's weekend time. We have frost advisory in effect. Again, first of the season. It's not fall yet, Brandon. Oh, I know, but meteorologically, that began in September. So we'll call it the first frost of the season. 31 in Ann Arbor, 30 Port Huron, 32 Lapeer, and we're right at freezing near Howell as well. A little closer into downtown Detroit, the urban heat island effect, 40-ish. We will see a very similar day to yesterday, sans the wind. It's going to be a little more calm and so a lot more pleasant with plenty of Saturday sun, 42 at 8 a.m., double nickels 55 at noon and a high of 63 degrees today. A good dozen below average, guys, but I'll tell you what, without the wind and plenty of sun, going to be a good one today.
And today we're mourning the loss of a Supreme Court titan, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ginsburg was a pioneer for women's rights and an advocate for gender equality. The powerful liberal justice died Friday evening from complications of pancreatic cancer. She was surrounded by family at her home in Washington, D.C. She was 87 years old.
Hundreds of people gathered well into the night outside of the Supreme Court, where Ginsburg served for more than 27 years. Despite her small stature, Ginsburg is described as larger than life, a feminist icon who broke barriers. Tracy Potts has a look at her life.
Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg spent more than a quarter century on the U.S. Supreme Court and spent much of her career fighting for equality.
How wrong it is to judge people on the basis of what they look like.
Born in Brooklyn, New York, she tied for first in her class at Columbia Law. But with no job offers from law firms, this was the late 50s, she taught at Rutgers and Columbia, then helped launch the ACLU Women's Rights Project in the 70s. Later, as their lawyer, she won 5 of 6 cases before the U.S. Supreme Court.
Her ultimate goal was to get sex discrimination treated by the Supreme Court the same way that race discrimination was treated.
From the Court of Appeals, President Clinton made her the second female on the nation's highest court, where she continued to even the playing field, ending male-only college admissions, supporting reproductive rights and the LGBTQ community. While her rulings leaned liberal, off the bench, she was close friends with the late conservative Justice Antonin Scalia. In her 80s, Ginsburg became popular with a new generation, celebrated in the book The Notorious RBG, and parodied on Saturday Night Live.
I'm never going to step down now. You can't get rid of me.
There's this whole new generation of young people who really admire her and think of her as, kind of a rock star.
Justice Ginsburg spoke out about the Me Too movement.
It is as effective for the woman who works as a maid in a hotel as it is for Hollywood stars.
A wife, a mother, a grandmother, an advocate for equality for nearly half a century. Tracy Potts, Local 4.
And President Trump reacted to Ginsburg's death after a campaign rally in Minnesota. A reporter on the tarmac seemed to be the first to tell the president the news.
She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually saddened to hear that. I am saddened to hear that. Thank you very much.
The Democratic nominee for president also remembering Ginsburg's accomplishments. Former Vice President Joe Biden called her a giant in the legal profession and a beloved figure.
My heart goes out to all those who cared for her and care about her. And she practiced the highest American ideals as a justice, equality and justice under the law. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg stood for all of us.
And Justice Ginsburg's lifetime battle for gender equality has had a profound effect not only on the legal profession, but on opportunities for women everywhere.
And those who worked alongside her shared their stories with our Mara McDonald.
And Director Gordon, along with Wayne State University Law School's distinguished professor Robert Sedler, shared their remembrances of her with us. Take a listen.
She was a quiet person. She was physically very small. She spoke in a quiet voice and slowly. You sort of had to lean in to hear her. But she was very precise with language. She could be extremely funny in a dry as dust way. She held your attention like very few people do.
Gordon clerked for Ginsburg right out of Yale Law.
So she was a wonderful combination of fierce defender of equality, a brilliant jurist, and a kind human being.
Wayne State Law School's distinguished professor Robert Sedler is a contemporary of Ginsburg's, and they crossed paths over the years fighting for gender equality.
This may seem silly to you today, but it was, at the time, this was considered the most reasonable form of discrimination because, you know, men and women are different. Boy babies look different from girl babies. And one of the cases that I won, if you remember, when you were 16, you got a learner's permit, and one of your parents had a sign for it. Well, under Kentucky law at that time, only the dad could sign, not the mom.
But Sedler says in addition to a talented jurist, she was a lovely human being.
She's just a very warm person. The concern for people, the concern for equality, the concern for rights that is reflected in her opinion comes out when you meet her as a person.
As Professor Sedler told me, there are generations of women who are now active in the legal profession because of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We are in Mount Clemens. I'm Mara McDonald. Back to you.
And amid remembering Justice Ginsburg, it's hard to ignore the political weight of what comes next. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell certainly is not wasting any time. The Republican Majority Leader released a statement honoring the justice and said a nominee from the president will receive a vote in the Senate. McConnell's statement says, in part, Americans re-elected our majority in 2016 and expanded it in 2018 because we pledged to work with President Trump and support his agenda, adding, once again, we will keep our promise. The decision is an about-face for McConnell, who refused hearings on President Obama's choice for the Supreme Court in 2016.
And Joe Biden says the nomination should happen after voters pick the president. But just last week, President Trump released a list of potential nominees in case there were any vacancies. Now, that list featured 20 people, including Republican Senators Ted Cruz of Texas and Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Also, Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, who's African American. 6 of the potential nominees are women, including Judge Bridget Bade of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And Michigan's governor is joining the chorus of voices honoring the late justice, reminding us to follow Ginsburg's example.
Gretchen Whitmer's statement reads in part, quote, I know there are a lot of women who are feeling worried right now about what this means for the future of our country. One thing I learned watching Justice Ginsburg's fearless battles with cancer and injustice is that you never give up and you never stop fighting for the values we hold dear as Americans. She will certainly be missed.
And before we go to break, we leave you with a message Ginsburg gave on her lifelong mission for gender equality.
People ask me sometimes, when will there be enough women on the court? And my answer is, when there are 9.
restaurants, casinos, gyms. Slowly, and with restrictions, businesses are starting to open back up. Now movie theater owners are asking, why not them?
And movie theaters are open across the country. It's time to open movie theaters in Michigan, too.
Find out why they say they're ready to rip tickets and roll film. Join us Monday at 6 a.m. on Local 4 News Today. Join Local 4 and mask up, Michigan.